1 week ago, Syracuse was off to a 4-0 start in back-to-back seasons for the first time in 63 years. The party didn't last for long. Clemson mauled SU 31-14, and to make matters worse, the Cuse says farewell to home for 34 days. The first stop on the road trip is 14th ranked UNC, a squad that boasts a legendary coach and one of the top QBs in the country. The gauntlet continues for Babers and his Ohana. It's off to Tobacco Road. It's Syracuse and UNC on Cuse Countdown, and it starts right now.
Welcome into the CitrusTV studio. It's Cuse Countdown time. Caleb Nice, Peter Elliott, and Liam Griffin with you previewing Syracuse at number 14 North Carolina in Chapel Hill. But guys, before we talk Orange and Tar Heels, let's talk last weekend. In the most hyped up game of the season to date, the Orange were squashed. 2 fumbles on the first 3 SU offensive possessions, paired with a pick in the fourth quarter, led to a crushing 31-14 defeat at the paws of those Tigers. So Peter, was this loss to Clemson a defining moment for the Syracuse season?
It has to be, right? I mean, this is the big moment for this Orange team. They're 4-1, but it feels like a weighty 4-1. It really feels like that one means a lot for this Orange team. And it was funny, looking at that pre-open there, we saw the Syracuse highlights, but I didn't know where any of that was for the rest of the game. We saw a lot of that, right? Clemson dominating on offense, and the Orange just couldn't do much. Turnovers, penalties, ineffective play calling. I really thought we saw SU at its worst on Saturday, Liam.
Yeah, Peter, the story coming into the game was all this hype. Are we going to get a repeat of 2017? That was let down rather quickly. Look, Clemson is the more talented team. I don't think anyone is denying that. But let's be frank, the Tigers have not lived up to expectations this year. Cade Klubnik, as a starting quarterback, had never beaten a Power 5 team coming into this game. You would not have been able to tell by his performance today. Clemson also 8 of 16 on third down, most all season allowed by the SUD.
No, and the Dome is known as this imposing environment for road teams, but he came in there and acted like it was just a library. I mean, really, he had an impressive performance. And again, he's just a 19-year-old sophomore. A really impressive performance from Klubnik. And a preview for what's to come for Syracuse is they head down a gauntlet where they face really good quarterbacks like Drake May, who we'll talk about, and Jordan Travis.
You mentioned 2 quarterbacks there. Another quarterback, Garrett Schrader. He might still be finding turf pellets on his body. The offensive line had its worst game of the season protecting QB1. He was sacked 5 times in this one, guys. Clemson only had 6 sacks in the season coming in this one. But guys, for a QB who's normally pretty elusive, Liam, Schrader didn't really look like himself in this one.
Yeah, and when it comes to Schrader in this game, I cycle back to that early hit in the first quarter when he got absolutely decked and lost the fumble. From there, he just did not look like the same guy. And the whole game, Schrader was running for his life. Clemson had a QB spy on him all game. That was evident on that fumble in particular, and the linebacker blitz all game long. Syracuse's offensive line had no answers for it, and frankly, it was Schrader's worst game of the season by far.
Oh, I'm right there with you, Liam. Clemson prepared accordingly for a quarterback who loves to scramble, but we got to talk about that Clemson D-line. So experienced, so strong. It makes sense that Schrader really struggled. I don't think they'll face a defensive line unit as strong as they will in Clemson, but this is a great test for Garrett Schrader here. I mean, how he fared against Clemson, he's got to respond. And as a quarterback, Garrett Schrader has always been someone who's owned up to the responsibility of being QB1. So I think of all people, he can take responsibility and rebound for next week against North Carolina.
Yeah, it's no secret that Clemson has a bunch of Sunday guys. I'm not talking about ice cream. The Tigers are loaded with NFL talent, meaning they know how to capitalize on mistakes. The Cuse lended a hand to Clemson with all of the miscues. 9 penalties, 92 yards. Liam, does it make you question the discipline of this group?
How can it not make you question the discipline of this group? I mean, Syracuse is in la-la land with all these silly penalties they're committing. I mean, for goodness sake. Elijah Clark, fair catch interference, that's just borderline ridiculous. You also have a false start on the edge of the goal line. You've got to be kidding me. And then the thing that eggs me the most, Caleb, Marlowe Wax, a late hit out of bounds on 3rd and long. Clemson came nowhere close to converting it. It felt like a repeat of last year's game in Death Valley against the Tigers. When will this team ever learn to stop seeing so many yellow flags on the field?
Yeah, more laundry on the field than laundry on the ground at the Goldstein Student Center. I mean, really, an embarrassing performance from Syracuse. And this has been the theme of Dino Babers' tenure here in Syracuse. Every year after year, we talk about penalties and this undisciplined Syracuse team. And he's talked about improving, but nothing has changed. Last year, Syracuse led the ACC in penalties with 111 last year. And this year, they're actually averaging more yards per penalty than last year. That's pretty remarkable. Things need to change on that penalty front.
Yeah, you guys hit the nail on the head. Penalties have always been the story for Syracuse. Well, let's see what Coach Dino Babers had to say following that loss to Clemson on his team's penalties.
I think that some of those penalties really shaped the game. But penalties are a part of the game. And we understand that and they understand you're not going to get every call. You have to learn to deal with that. That's just part of the momentum and the adversity that goes along with the game. Penalties will never be used as an excuse whether you win or lose football games.
And when you talk about those miscues, the blame a lot of the time falls on the coaches. And one of the biggest moments of the game, Dino Babers asked his sophomore kicker, Brady Denenberg, to kick the second longest field goal in school history, 57-yarder just before the half. Peter, do you question the decision-making at all with Coach Dino Babers in this one?
Oh, absolutely. Dave Pasch was questioning it on the broadcast. I mean, how can you not? Of course, I think Brady Denenberg is a really solid kicker. I mean, he's someone who Dino has said can make those kicks, and I believe he will in the future. I think he can break Andre Schmidt's record for the longest field goal. But you can't throw your rookie kicker out there to try and hit a 57-yarder in a position like that. You got to go for it. It was just a confounding decision there from Syracuse, and that was just one of many interesting decisions there. That choice not to challenge that Damian Alford catch that looked awfully close to the sideline. A bunch of decisions on Saturday that reminded us why Dino Babers was on the hot seat to begin with a couple years ago.
Yeah, circling back to that 57-yard field goal, it was so unexpected that the net that they bring up when a field goal is attempted was not ready for it. It was being brought up as the kick was being attempted. Yeah. And also, I look at the offensive play calling in particular. You had a situation where Garrett Schrader threw the ball deep down the sideline 4 times over a 6-play stretch. If you have prime Calvin Johnson or Randy Moss as your receivers, that's okay. But when you're going up against the best of the best in the ACC, and no disrespect to Damian Alford or another receiver, they just can't compete with Clemson.
No, you touched on it right there, the play calling. It really was inept in that game. And we saw those sideline deep balls, they just weren't working for Syracuse. We've got to see Jason Beck scheme up some more creative plays. Use Dan Valeri like you did last game. That was a positive from that game. Using your quarterback turn tight end, that's something they can really do. But those long sideline balls, that's not working for Syracuse. That was just another more emblematic bad coaching on Saturday.
All right, we need to take it easy on the coaches for a little bit. Fingers, they can't just be pointed at the coaches, Liam, because sometimes it's the players who don't get the hottest start, and that can get the whole team down early.
Yeah, Caleb, on the Mob podcast earlier this week, defensive end Caleb Okechukwu acknowledged that starting slow against Clemson was not exactly a recipe for success. But if you take a look at the big picture, slow starts have been an issue all season for Syracuse. We start in week 2 against Western Michigan. The Orange on defense to start the game. And look at this. All running around before the play started, super disorganized, and that creates plenty of green grass for Jalen Buckley to take it the distance. What a cut right there to blitz out Isaiah Johnson. 75 yards on the second play from scrimmage. And this is no Clemson, not to say Western Michigan is terrible, but it's a MAC school. It's a school you expect to start better against defensively and offensively. Damian Alford, what are you doing? Looking like Wes Welker in Super Bowl 46 with those drops, but unlike Mr. Welker, Alford and the Orange actually won that game. We move on to week 4 when Syracuse took on Army. Once again, defense on the field to start the game, and a 9.5-minute drive culminates with this rushing touchdown. You'd think you would know the run is coming considering you're playing Army, who runs the triple option, but that's neither here nor there. Offensively, Schrader throws an incompletion to Umari Hatcher, a 3-and-out on the first drive offensively. Not a great start against the Black Knights either, but Clemson was the true test. And this time, Syracuse started on offense, and it was after Clemson won the toss and elected to defer to the second half. Schrader, look at him running for his life. Credit to his elusiveness, but at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do when you get hit like that and fumble the football. So Clemson takes over offensively. You got Cade Klubnik running for his life. Isaiah Johnson tried to blitz, but unlike Schrader, Clemson was able to find the back of the end zone for 6. Starting slow has been an issue for Syracuse all season, Caleb, and North Carolina, number 14 team in the country, provides one heck of an opportunity to change that narrative.
Exactly right, Liam. The Syracuse defense and offense can't get caught snoozing to start the game this weekend. It's time for our first break here on Cuse Countdown. When we come back, we dive into the Tar Heels. Don't go anywhere. CC back after this.
One in three adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber,
Breathe right into your foot.
your plumber's masseuse,
Yes.
you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, pre-diabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back to Cuse Countdown. Caleb Nice, Peter Elliott, and Liam Griffin with you. Some breaking and big news for the North Carolina football program today. Receiver Tez Walker received news today that he is receiving a waiver from the NCAA. The Kent State transfer will be eligible to play moving forward after the NCAA received new information about his case. Walker is expected to immediately become the number one receiver for the Tar Heels. Here's what he had to say today. I'm so excited and thankful that the NCAA has granted my eligibility to play this season. This hasn't been easy, but I'm looking forward to putting this in the past and moving forward. I always knew UNC was a special place, but it's proved it over and over again throughout the last few months. I've received so much support from the university, the athletics department, my coaches, the staff, and my teammates. Most of all, I felt so much love from the fans. Peter, I'm going to come to you first. How does this affect Syracuse? It's great news for Tez.
Oh, it certainly is. And I know I'm supposed to be an analyst, but I can only kind of throw my hands up and shrug here. We don't know how this will impact the game on Saturday because he has not played in over 10 months previously for Akron and now transferring to UNC. We've never seen him in a Tar Heels uniform, so we don't know. Obviously, we can speculate that he could be the number one receiver, and Drake May obviously excited to get a weapon like Tez Walker, but who knows how this will happen. And Syracuse has no tape on Tez Walker. What will he look like out there? We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. There is no film on him, but what we do know is he had a 56-yard screen pass for a touchdown against Georgia last year, and the Bulldogs, they don't mess around. If he plays, he's going to be lethal.
Yeah. So guys, we just took a break. Coming back now, we're still feeling good. We're still rolling. That hasn't been the case for SU's next opponent, North Carolina. It might just be the right time to catch the Tar Heels since Mac Brown's return to Chapel Hill in 2019. UNC has not won a game following the bye week. They're 0-4 after the bye week, which is just wild. What's even more wild is that 3 of those losses were against Notre Dame. LG, how can SU get some of that luck of the Irish?
I mean, I look at this, and Notre Dame is a perennial powerhouse in college football, and is it reasonable to expect SU to live up to the complete Irish standard? No. But at the same time, you have losses by 14, 10, and 13 to Notre Dame. Not exactly competitive games, Peter.
LG, we're all on our high horse here talking about UNC's struggles out of the bye week, but Syracuse really has not been any better in the Dino Babers era. They've gone just 3-4 out of the bye week in those 7 seasons that Dino Babers has been the head coach. So not too much success for Syracuse coming out of the bye week. Obviously, that's a time where you should recuperate and get ready for the next opponent, but Syracuse has not had as much success, although UNC has really struggled out of the gate.
Yeah, so they have struggled following that extra rest, but Mac Brown is definitely the right guy to right the ship. Mac Brown sits in the top 10 all-time winningest FBS coaches. A coach so nice he had to come back twice, Peter. He was first with the Tar Heels from 1988 to 1997 before he came out of retirement and returned to Carolina in 2019. But success has seemed to follow him wherever he goes.
It really has, Caleb. He is a future Hall of Famer. That's what Dino Babers said about him on Monday. And I asked Dino Babers what makes him such a successful coach, and it really comes down to him being a great communicator and a great face of the program. Think about the sea changes in the landscape of college football that have happened over the course of his tenure. Look at him dancing with his players. I mean, from NIL to the transfer portal, all kinds of things have happened, but he has had success in Austin and Chapel Hill, in New Orleans with Tulane. Mac Brown has success wherever he goes, Liam.
I mean, Mac Brown, in addition to having really good dance moves, I mean, he's a legend of the game. He's been on the job for 35 years, almost 300 wins. Took Texas to a national championship back in 2005. Came so close to another one in 2009. Hasn't quite found his stride in round 2 in North Carolina yet. The Tar Heels don't have a 10-win season in his second tenure. But with a quarterback like Drake May, not to spoil Caleb, it could happen this year.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, if this is the year Mac Brown breaks those post-bye failures, he definitely has the right guy under center to do so. Drake May, as a redshirt freshman last season, he tied Sam Howell's single-season touchdown records with 38. He also won ACC Player of the Year. He entered this year's campaign as a Heisman hopeful LG and stands out as one of the most talented quarterbacks the mob is probably going to go up against all season.
I mean, yeah, Drake May did what he did last year, win ACC Player of the Year as a true freshman, and the accolades just kept coming in for him. Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, third-team All-American, and that came up to him being the preseason ACC Player of the Year this year. He is North Carolina football this season, and the Tar Heels' success lives or dies with him.
Yeah, we know Drake is from the 6, but Drake May loves to score the 6. An impressive career so far for Drake May, and really, he hasn't done it with that many weapons, and his offensive line has struggled this season, not giving him a lot of protection, but Drake May still putting up impressive numbers for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, so normally before May comes April, but in this case, it's May again. Peter, before Drake May began his legacy on the gridiron in Chapel Hill, his brother was doing it there, but on the basketball court.
Yeah, Caleb, by this point, we know that Drake May is an exceptional quarterback. Watch him play, and his deft throws leap off the film. Check the box score, and his stats leap off the page. But if you're a Tar Heels fan, Drake May's name also leaps off his jersey. That's because May is the youngest member of the unofficial first family of the University of North Carolina. May grew up 2 hours southeast of Chapel Hill, the son of a record-breaking quarterback and the younger brother of a legendary power forward. His blood type might as well be Carolina blue. You might remember that brother, Luke. He was a 6'8" forward and an integral part of the Tar Heels national championship team in 2017. By the way, that same year, the one non-Tar Heel in the family, Cole May, well, he won a national championship as a member of the University of Florida baseball team. I wonder who got the bigger ring. Well, Drake May is following in the footsteps of his father, Mark, who started under center for UNC in the late 80s, setting school records for the most passing yards in a game, as well as completion percentage and passing efficiency in a season. But Mark's signal-calling scion has set himself apart. There's no question that he may be even better than his father. Drake's list of accolades is as long as Tobacco Road. The single-season school record for passing yards, 2022 ACC Player of the Year, freshman All-American. His dual threat ability, 38 passing touchdowns and 7 rushing touchdowns last season, vaulting him into the conversation as a potential top pick in the upcoming NFL draft. But Drake May has yet to play against Syracuse in his collegiate career. Can he live up to the hype against an SU team eager to bounce back from a blowout? Well, his brother Luke has on the hardwood. He played in 6 games for the Tar Heels against the Orange during his collegiate career. UNC won all 6. The May clan looking to remain undefeated against Syracuse this Saturday.
Yeah, Peter, how can I cash in on some of those May genetics? Drake May has been outstanding, as we mentioned, but at times where the Carolina native might not be on his game, it helps to have a running back who can help pick up the slack. The Heels have that in Omarion Hampton, who put up 234 yards in an OT win against App State earlier this year. Liam, when you look at Hampton this season, he looks familiar to one of SU's own.
I mean, yeah, him and LaQuint Dallin are the same build. Hampton has 25 extra pounds on him, but Hampton reminds me a bit of LeGarrette Blount, former Eagles and Patriots running back. Not necessarily the fastest, but can break off a big run at any time and is very agile. And sticking with the theme of old Pats running backs, LeQuint Allen reminds me of Shane Vereen, a threat in the receiving game, quick first step, and shifty, but at the same time, both these guys have very similar play styles, Peter.
Any chance to shoehorn in some Boston sports references. I love it, Liam. Well, LeQuint Allen does remind me a lot on the stats page, but really, there are two different types of runners. I think, if anything, Amarian Hampton kind of reminds me of the running back that Syracuse faced last week, Will Shipley, which Syracuse did a great job of bottling up. Just 61 yards and 1 touchdown. So if anything was going right for Syracuse last week, it really was that run defense, Liam.
So while they might have two similar backs, one thing they certainly don't have in common is their paths to this game. On one hand, UNC has had a lot of hype and success, notable talent, a top 15 ranking. On the other hand, Syracuse has a lot of uncertainty behind their wins, just with who they've played so far this season. But Peter, the Orange rank above UNC in both offense and defense in the ACC. But what does SU have that the Tar Heels don't?
Yeah, well, I think we first have to acknowledge that those stats a little inflated given the strength of schedule for Syracuse early on. So let's get that out of the way first. But I think Syracuse has a stronger pass rush. That D-line, one of the few units that has not been hampered by injuries so far this season, and I think they can get after Drake May in this game. So I think a little bit of a stronger unit on the defensive line for the Orange.
Hey, Caleb, I'm looking at the red zone defense. Opposing offenses have barely a 50% success rate when getting inside the opposing 20-yard line. That's where Syracuse's bread and butter has been defensively this year. And if you want to add a little bit more defensively, North Carolina is not good at tackling. They give up yards after contact out the wazoo. It's kind of ugly to see, Peter. They don't have fundamental football locked down at all.
It's time for another break here on Cuse Countdown, but don't go anywhere. We've got something fun coming up. Agent 44, our analysts are on the case. Cuse Countdown, back after the break.
Baby, you see, you're so right for me, and I am right for you. I love the things you do, like sweet tasting wine. Your lips are so divine. Your loving turns me on. My lonely days are gone. That's why I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never gonna let you go. No, no, never gonna let you go. Baby, never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
gonna let you go.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look.
Welcome back into Cuse Countdown. Caleb Nice, Peter Elliott, and Liam Griffin with you. New location. We got some new swag, and it's time for Agent 44. Guys, I found a lot of the files in the back of the studio. There's been a ton of crimes. And you know what? You guys are going to be my detectives. I need you on the case. Does it sound good?
Let's investigate.
Let's have some fun.
Let's do it.
All right, so Peter, our first case comes from the offense. Detectives Arane Gadsden is out for the season. Syracuse needs a receiver to step up. Nobody's been a consistent playmaker to help take that burden off of Garrett Schrader's shoulders. Donovan Brown and Mari Hatcher, they were there in those first 2 games, but lately the team's been searching for answers. Peter, who's at the crime scene?
Well, play callers can't do it all by themselves. I think the play calling has been the culprit. The playmakers have just not had any chances to make those plays because SU, like we talked about, has been relying so much on those deep balls down the sideline. But that doesn't help when Arane Gadsden and Isaiah Jones, those receivers, have been out. So Syracuse has been afraid to throw over the middle. I know replicating Gadsden, obviously that's easier said than done, Liam, but come on, you got to find a new suspect over the middle, something where Syracuse can diversify the play calling and make it less predictable.
You mentioned all these throws over the middle. Who's the guy throwing over the middle? It's Garrett Schrader. Look, he seemingly picks a new guy to be his WR1 every week, whether it's Donovan Brown, Mari Hatcher, Isaiah Jones. He just doesn't have that same chemistry that he had with Arane Gadsden, among others, last year. He's also still too dependent on the run, and that elbow was going to be a concern coming into the season. I'd say it has been so far, Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Syracuse definitely needs Schrader to step up. Our second file here is suspicious of how quiet the SU special teams unit has been. These ACC opponents are really going to exploit this weakness if the Orange can't figure it out. Liam, who has their fingerprints all over this?
Well, it's coming with a Hawaiian touch because it's the head man. It's Dino Babers. He's setting up his special teams unit to fail. Brady Dennever trotting out for a 57-yard field goal. You got to be kidding me. That's difficult for an NFL kicker to make, let alone a college kicker in his first year starting against the Clemson Tigers. Utilize Jack Stonehouse, for goodness sake. He has just one touchback over 17 punts. Last I checked, Caleb, that's pretty good.
Liam, I'm going to indict the whole punt return unit because I think for the most part, the rest of Syracuse special teams have been pretty good. Jack Stonehouse has been one of the best punters in the league, and Brady Denneberg has really been reliable as a kicker, but punt returning has been a struggle. Demarcus Adams had a great game against Colgate, but that was his high water mark. Since then, he has really struggled to field the ball. He mustered just 6 yards on a trio of punt returns against Clemson, so I think they need to figure something out there, whether it's Trevor Pena coming back. We still don't know what's going on with him, so between Trevor Pena and Demarcus Adams, something has got to happen in that punt return unit so they can set up the offense better on those series.
Yeah, Peter, I like that answer. Syracuse averaging just about 7 yards per return so far on punts. Our third and final case, guys, someone's been really sloppy. The crime is turnover. Syracuse with 8 turnovers through 5 games. They had 2 on their first 3 drives against Clemson. Peter, why can't these guys hold on to the ball?
Garrett Schrader, you're under surveillance. We've been watching the All-22 for the last 24/7, and really, I think it comes down to how Garrett Schrader has thrown some poor balls, let's be honest. I believe in 6, but he's thrown 4 picks on the season. That's the 5th most in the ACC. And speaking of those other turnovers, how about that fumble to open up the game, and then that pitch to LaQuint Allen? That's technically in the box score listed as a fumble on LaQuint Allen, but really, I think that was on Garrett Schrader. That was a high pitch.
You can blame it on Schrader all you want, but he wouldn't have been running for his life if the receiving core had a little bit of separation. They can't get wide open at all. Damian Alford, 4th quarter. Garrett Schrader throws a pick to Jeremiah Trotter. Trotter read Alford like a book. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. It's not like you're reading Harry Potter or a difficult book like that. It was way too easy for Jeremiah Trotter. It falls on Schrader. That pitch too, just terrible.
Just many suspects to these crimes, Caleb.
Well, fortunately, we're also going to be guilty of a crime. Like Syracuse can't hold on to the ball. We can't stick with you forever. It's time for one final break here on Cuse Countdown. When we come back, we talk schedule outlook and we give our predictions as well. Welcome back into the CitrusTV studio. Wrapping up Cuse Countdown, Peter Elliott, Liam Griffin, and Caleb Nice breaking it all down. Syracuse and North Carolina coming up on Saturday, the first game of October, which means Halloween is just a little over 3 weeks away. But what might be a little bit more spooky is this upcoming slate on the Syracuse schedule. UNC on the road, followed by a scary Florida State team on the road. Liam, definitely some monsters coming up. How does Syracuse get through it?
I mean, yeah, you have to get through these two. UNC on the road, Florida State on the road. You're facing 2 Heisman candidates in May and Travis. But once you get past those 2, the schedule really opens up. Yeah. VT, not that intimidating. Boston College, also not that intimidating. You have to get through these 2, then it really lightens up.
But Liam, that's the light at the end of the tunnel. You got to get through this heart of the schedule right now. You got to take on Drake May and Jordan Travis. It's a tough stretch, but if Syracuse can pull 1 out of these next 2 games against UNC and FSU, I think that's a huge win for the Orange.
I mean, it will definitely help with their confidence, just getting 1 win against 3 solid, good teams. Well, before we go, we have to give our predictions. Peter, come to you first. Does Syracuse get it done in Chapel Hill?
I think they do. I think last week was the worst we saw the Orange all week. Like Deion Sanders said after the Buffaloes lost to Oregon, you're never going to see this Buffaloes team play worse than they did. I don't think you're going to see the Syracuse team play worse than they did last week in the Dome. I think they go to Chapel Hill and execute. They start strong and they finish even stronger in a 24-20 victory on the road.
Well, even if Syracuse plays better than it did last week, that doesn't guarantee a victory because UNC is better than Clemson and you're playing on the road. I've got the Tar Heels taking this one 38-24. Look, it's a tough road environment, second game of the season. UNC is a much different animal than Purdue. That's going to be too much for SU to handle. Drake May has the game of his life.
So our analysts are split. We got LG, UNC, Syracuse for Peter. I'll be the tiebreaker here. I got UNC 31-20. So we got a UNC win here. That's going to do it for Cuse Countdown. For Liam Griffin and Peter Elliott, I'm Caleb Nice saying so long and thanks for tuning in for Cuse Countdown.